Okay, you guys, you ready? Welcome to the Downtown Design Review Committee, March 16th, 2017 meeting. I would like to, before we start, ask you to turn off your phones. That means everybody, Corey. Kidding. Okay. We need the roll call.
Betsy Brunstetter.
Present.
G.T. Faulkner.
Present.
Charles Ainsworth. Present. Corey Bates. Excuse me. Corey Bates. Nathaniel Harding. Connie Scothorn.
Present.
Danielle Theriot. Present. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Hope everybody has had an opportunity to read the minutes, and I have been, I'm reading here that I'm supposed to state the time for the record. It is now 9:31. Do we have approval of minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And I need to ask if you all, if there's anyone that needs to leave early from this meeting. I'm learning these things. Anybody? No? Yeah, it's on this list of things.
I'll sign up for next month.
Okay.
Next meeting.
Next meeting might be a conflict for you. Okay. And do you have any conflicts of interest? Anybody on the committee have any conflicts of interest, abstentions, or absences that will affect any of the cases today? Okay, good. Please use your microphones when speaking. You guys get the benefit of all of this. It's probably me. Okay. Okay. So, we've approved the minutes. We have no cases withdrawn. We have no continuance request. We have nothing on the consent docket. We have 4 cases to hear today. The first item is 312 Northwest 8th Street. Is the applicant present?
The applicant is not present.
Should we put this to the end of the docket?
Yes, let's put it at the end of the docket.
Okay,
That's
we're
a
going to
great
move
suggestion.
item A to the end of the docket. Next item is 714 North Broadway. Is the applicant present? Hi, if you come forward, sign your name on the piece of paper. Laura will tell us what's going on, and then you get to tell us a little bit more. Okay?
Good morning.
Larry Pickering, 422 Northwest 9th Street.
Okay. Hi, Laura.
Hi. This is a... Hang on. It's not cooperating. This is a request for the backside of the building that has cultivar in it for some signage. And we're going to pretend that we're not looking at it on the screen, but it kind of helps you to look at it, because your action today is as though it's not there. I think it does help you to be able to visualize it, actually seeing it. The back of cultivar is on the alley, which runs parallel to Broadway, in case you've been back that way. The access in the back is not to the public that wants to come in and sit down and eat. It's a service interest, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's also carry-out. Can they do carry-out from the back?
The staff does carry out
from the okay.
curbside service.
So the back is not really their public entrance. There's been some significant history to the building that we recited in the staff report. They've done a lot of modifications to the building. We have the outdoor seating now on the front side. On the back side, they've done some stuff. They did some windows, they did some painting, and the entrance with the new stoop. At issue is the fact that they're going over the allowable square footage of signage. For this zoning district, it's based on the width of the building, and in your staff report, we actually had the table. The building is 75-foot wide on Broadway, and it's actually constructed on the property line, and so they're allowed 235 square foot of signage. So currently, there is 110.64 square foot of signage, and they are proposing to add an additional 247.96 square feet, so they're going to go over. In looking at this, currently, they're not given credit for their frontage on the alley, but in the staff report, if they were given credit, they would actually be able to double the square footage of signage that they're allowed, which almost takes into account everything that they're proposing. At issue is the fact that it is not, if I wanted to go there to eat and I thought, oh, I'm going to park in the back because there happens to be parking places, because they have parking places that actually have signs, but if I tried to go in the back, I couldn't. I'd have to turn around and either go repark or walk around the building and go in the front. So we have one of the recommended conditions that we have is that they add or modify their signage to direct their patrons to go into the main entrance. And that might sound kind of odd because we're almost saying let's add some more signage, but they really need some directional signage so the average person doesn't try to go in the back and maybe get frustrated because you can't walk through because of, I believe, where the kitchen is located when you go in the back of the building. We pointed out, for references, some of the guidelines about purpose and intent. I think the signage, when you look at it, the execution is well, it's painted, it fits in with the building. They have this projecting sign, and I'll just explain that normally you only count one face of a projecting sign, but this one has a 90-degree angle, and because of that, they count both faces, so it's actually counted as a larger sign that you normally would expect. So staff recommendation is that approval with the conditions that they add or modify the signage to direct patrons from the alley to the main business entrance, as well as the applicant obtains a variance from the Board of Adjustment from the maximum allowable sign area regulations. And then, obviously, you're also going to have to provide a recommendation to the Board of Adjustment. I believe they have filed for that variance.
Oh, not as yet.
Not yet, okay. They're waiting
on
to
this
see what
one.
happens with this meeting, and then they'll file for that.
Okay. Larry?
When we did the improvements to the building, the loading dock, the ramp, for the service entrance, we also made significant improvements to the alley on the other side, which was also owned by Blue Label Properties. That strip of parking is designated for the use of the building tenants only, which you see in this photograph here, and all of the signposts along that parking strip are divided up between the Water's Edge Winery, Cultivar, which is our curbside to go, and then Beyond Studio, which is the new workout and yoga studio on the second floor above us. So just the 3 parking spaces for Cultivar are designated curbside only. We do get a lot of parking back in this area, 7th Street especially. People will park in the spaces and walk around the building and eat, so the staff recommendation for that. Directional signage is good, simply because of the Broadway parking situation. And that's going to get compounded, I think, with the implementation of the Charlie line and all of that. That's going to be very disruptive along Broadway. So we are over, based on the 75-foot. If we got a recommendation, we got the variance to allow for the additional square footage, that would be very, very helpful, of course, and I think that would set a precedent for additional businesses along here. With the development down the streets, such as 9th and 8th and now 7th, we are currently working with another client on the building directly behind this. I think that alleyway, especially this alleyway, since it's between the main thoroughfares from Oklahoma Avenue over, is going to be more significant. So building improvements and signage and whatnot would be very, very helpful.
So are you considering having patrons be able to enter from the backside, or?
Right now, no, but it's yet to be determined with the disruption along Broadway of what is going to happen there.
Right.
We have two exits from Cultivar, one from the public space into what is essentially the fire exit back stairway, and then one into the kitchen. Both of those are marked service entrance only at this point, but with the disruption that's going to happen, we may have more patrons coming in the back way. So we may change that temporarily just to allow that ease of access coming in from the back side of the building.
So you're willing to add the additional directional signage to the back?
Oh,
signage?
absolutely, yes.
Okay, and all we have before us really is the signage and the variance request, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there anyone in the galley that would like to speak to this? Do we have a motion?
I'd move to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section C and D of the staff report, with the conditions that A, the applicant add or modify signage to direct patrons from the alley to the main business entrance, and B, the applicant obtains a variance from the Board of Adjustment from the maximum allowable sign area regulations.
So the motion was Bates, second was Faulkner. All in favor? Any opposed? Now we need,
I'd also move to provide a recommendation of approval to the Board of Adjustment for a variance from the maximum allowable sign area regulations.
same combination. All in favor? Any opposed? Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is item 6C. Is the applicant present?
This is the Classen Commons project that was reviewed and approved a couple of years ago. It's now finished. I don't know if people have moved in, but it's virtually complete. The original application showed a monument sign. Some of you may remember that for the original building on the site, there was a monument sign on the corner. And the original project approval included a monument sign, but the need for a variance was not identified at the time the case was reviewed. And now it is expired, so we can't act on it. So we're bringing this back as a new case so that the applicant can get a sign permit, can get a variance from the prohibition of signs in the right-of-way. But it's the same sign, except it's a little bit shorter lengthwise than the original approval. But other than that, it's essentially the same sign.
Okay, great.
Yep, Larry Blackledge, 13th and Classen.
I wanted to tell you that I'm pleased with what you ended up with there, and thank you for working with us.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind.
I
I'll
think
pass that on to the owners.
It has a lot more integration with pedestrians and with the street than it initially would have had, so we appreciate you working with us.
Thank you.
on that.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody have any questions on this, or do we want to move on to the motion?
I'll move to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the intent, regulations, and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section C and D of the staff report, with the condition that A, the applicant obtains a variance from the Board of Adjustment from the sign ordinance prohibition against signs in the right-of-way.
That was a Bates and Terrio motion. All in favor? Any opposed?
I move to provide a recommendation of approval to the Board of Adjustment for a variance from the sign ordinance prohibition against signs in the right-of-way.
Thank you so very
Same
much.
combination. All in favor? Any opposed? Thanks very much for being here. The next item is item 6D. 1 and 3 Northwest 9th Street, is that right?
Yes. Hello again.
multiple applicants present, I think, so we can move on unless you have a...
Oh, is this something different?
No, I just wanted to make sure that the existing buildings are those.
Oh, I gotcha. That's right. No. Gotcha. Based on my research, some of you have seen this project before, and it used to look much different before this all started. And bear with Paula as she pulls that in. Ken?
Let's go with front.
So,
Do you want to...
do you want me to
Yeah,
continue?
well, can Laura finish, and then we'll have you guys do your presentation.
Okay, so I need to get back to...
Thanks.
Thanks for driving, Paula. Okay. Okay. So this is directly north of the Braid, which was one of my first projects when I came 2 years ago, so I was kind of excited to be back on that same street. You have two residential-looking structures that are currently there that have been converted. One essentially was almost totally reconstructed, the smaller one next to the track, and they've been, now they're used for non-residential purposes. And this is in the area where there's been significant amount of work done right next to the track. Quiet zone project, so they've done a lot of work there. They've done some sidewalk work and some median work there at the tracks. And then just looking on down, you've got a sidewalk that runs all along that street. And across the street, as I mentioned, is the building that the Braid is on. It's also owned by the same individual that owns the buildings before you today. And then continuing on the same side of the street, you have another residential structure that's used for non-residential purposes. And going on down, and a little further down is the womb. So it's kind of has a different feel to it. To me, when I went out there, it doesn't feel like the hustle and bustle of walking down Broadway, even though you're still in Automobile Alley, and it's more a laid-back type atmosphere. And the request before you today is for some revisions to the smaller structure that's adjacent to the railroad tracks, and then significant revisions to the area out in front of both of those structures closest to the tracks for outdoor seating, which, as you all have seen with a lot of projects, all the outdoor activity area, outdoor seating areas become extremely popular. You've seen a lot of projects for that. Included in the proposal was signage, which had 3 different options, and then some screening options for this porch area and outdoor seating area, and all total, I think we ended up with 6 different options. So I kind of wrote on the bottom of the pages to hopefully help you when you looked through all of those. So the stuff in red is my writing, just to help me as I looked through this with all the different options. And I'll let the architect kind of walk you through that, and there are different options for that. But they have different material. Staff actually is recommending the one that we're looking at now, which we felt was more inviting. It's not solid, so to me, you could see into it. And as far as the signage option, as we discussed in the staff report, one of their options is in the right-of-way, and strangely enough, that's the one that staff is recommending. We feel it's going to be more visible. There's a really huge sycamore tree it's in the right-of-way. I don't know how old it is. I don't know what its life expectancy is, but it's a really neat tree. And the concern that I had as staff is I really wanted to make sure we didn't end up with a signage situation where somebody felt, oh, the tree needs to go because nobody can see the sign. And I really felt that the sign out here is the one that people are going to be able to see as they are driving down the road, although hopefully people will know where they're going. It's right by the tracks. And they had an option for a sign that you see here on that screening on the building, as well as they had another option. Let me go through. Here's another of the material options. I'm looking for the pole. Bear with me. There it is. Sorry. And the other option for a sign is here. It's on a pole that actually is up above, goes up above the roof of that extension. So currently there is outdoor seating. It's not covered like they're proposing. There isn't as many seats. You could kind of see from the original pictures that I had when I was out there, they have some, they're like bench seating that's out there, and it's open, and then you can see the tables, and it's not covered. So, as I mentioned, staff is we recommended the one option for the more transparent material, which is the horizontal metal that I've referenced, as well as the pole sign in the right-of-way. And they will need a variance for that pole sign, and so that is included in the recommendations there at the end. So do you have any questions? Because I know there's a lot of information in this proposal, and a lot of different options in this proposal.
Okay, I want to boil this down.
Sure.
This is mainly for exterior seating and dining, and a little bit of renovation to the front facade of the building next to the train tracks?
Yes.
So why do the renderings show like something totally different on the building to the west of that?
They're not proposing any revisions to that. They didn't add all the details in, because when you look at it, the windows aren't there, the doors aren't there. They're not proposing work to that building. In front of that building, yes.
They're not proposing this to be done, though, and I want that to be clear and
No, not at all. Let me get to what you're looking at. So when you look at this, and you don't see windows, you don't see doors, they're not proposing to do any work to that building at all right now. That was just, it's there because they were doing work in front of it. So that building is 3. The address of that is 3. And so based on what your recommendation is, when we write the CA, we'll be very clear with the addresses and what they're approved to do.
Okay.
It's only there because...
It's just really awkward to have a drawing that shows something that's not there.
Right. I understand what you're saying, and the only reason they show it is because they're doing the work in the front.
Okay. Is the applicant present?
Hi, I'm Steve Mason, I'm the applicant, and we'll go first of all to this drawing. Yes, as Ms. Gregg said, the shingled over other building is a typo, mistake. We're not proposing to touch the other building. The existing door and windows will remain. Yeah, if we can go to my 3 slides. Approximately 8 years ago, this is what we bought. 9th Street was kind of the land that time forgot and renewal didn't find. And the first thought was, do we tear it all down? It was like, well, heck no. How do we protect, improve what's there? If we'll go to the 2nd slide. And so we wanted to try to honor that. You'll see on the 2nd and the 3rd, there's a 3rd slide. That's us remodeling a building, trying to get back to where it was 8 years ago. We value old stuff. We really do in our redevelopment. I made a mistake there, and I've learned that through 2 failed restaurants. The 2 failed restaurants might have had some operational problems, but the mistake I made in trying to protect the footprint of the original house was we only had 40 seats, and that wasn't enough. So what started this process, and Ken can talk about it, there's a couple of plan views, and Laura's presentation was to add inside seating. So so the slide on my right is what's there. It's about 40 seats.
So what's driving this process is how do we get it up to 60 seats? Basically, we're taking the out front patio and enclosing. This has been a difficult process for me because I don't want to ruin the old house, but I need more seating. So we've worked hard to try to be respectful, and that's what you see in these presentations. I've reviewed, Ken and I and Mark's the operator. He'll speak to us in a few minutes. One thing he'll tell you is the food concept's still there, but he's figured out Hot Chicks, the porn site, so the name may change, but he can explain that. So we've got into this design. The three of us met with Rand Elliott as a private citizen and asked for his input. He's actually supportive of staff's recommendation of D. He likes that. I think there's an architectural thing going on that you guys get about D and can explain. So that's where we're at. And so in general, we agree with the staff recs. We think D is a good design for the screen. I think Mark may speak about he'd like to have the option to do a different screen that's in this application. We support staff's comments about sign A. We're requesting that you also give us option C as part of that approval so we can add a second sign of the building if we want. And I'm going to turn over to Ken to kind of explain some details.
Hello, my name is Ken Fitzsimmons, 1228 Northwest 36th Street. And as Steve said, the original building had 34 indoor seats, and the challenge was people would come in there, and we've witnessed it a few times ourselves. There's not much room. People come in, they see it full, and there's not really room for them to wait, so they just leave. And that's part of the problem. So our goal was, as Steve said, to expand it without renting the old house. And to go back to what Laura said a while ago about that area, architecturally it was a very challenging project, even though it was a very small project. But those three little houses and that sycamore tree by the railroad track, to me, are a very unique and special place in Oklahoma City, and we wanted to try to preserve that as much as possible. And so the goal of the design was to keep the addition as transparent or as open as we could, but at the same time make it distinctly unto itself, so we don't confuse. We didn't want to replicate past elements and try to confuse people that the porch was bigger than it really was. We want to make a very clear distinction between what was there and what's proposed to be added. And so the idea was to draw off the old detailing of the porch railing, the pickets and things that you see there, and also make the new addition very diminutive, where it slides underneath the old porch and slides within the porch post. So the idea is to take this new minimalist object, if you will, and slide it within the old porch. And some of the fun that we had with that was the idea that once you're inside of this, and with that sycamore tree there, we kind of envisioned kind of going back to the days of when you might build a fort out of pallets, old wood pallets. And so there was some of that kind of notion, too, of, the railroad tracks there and having some fun with that. And so the idea is that this, in daytime, will still let light through. It'll create a shaded area for patrons to sit on the porch that's enclosed with glass, but also the completely outdoor area that's open on the sides, but we're proposing a translucent polycarbonate roof, so sunlight still comes through, so the old building won't be in complete shadow. There'll still be some light quality coming through. And at night, we're talking about having some lighting, so this will kind of have a soft glow on the inside and be something that's kind of a little lantern effect at night. I'm sorry?
It sounds like it.
So, and again, going back to the sycamore tree, Steve mentioned to me that this house and that sycamore tree, I think you said they did it back near the land run, or?
I believe two things were here for the land run, sycamore tree and the railroad track.
So, just.
We value like Mr. Griggs, the sycamore tree.
And that's also part of the idea for this design. We actually kept the addition smaller so that the footprints, such as foundations, when they dig into the ground and things like that, they won't mess with the tree roots, hopefully, and trying to make it as lightweight as possible. So at the end of the day, what you see there is what we're hoping will you still see the old building, you see the building that Betsy pointed out that we're not proposing work to. We just showed that for context, but trying to retain this sense of this outdoor patio area with the old tree being the main thing that you notice. And as Steve pointed out, we're happy with the options that Laura's approved, but we would also ask for consideration maybe for some of the other options, such as the cladding that might be a perforated material, might be a custom perforation, which we understand maybe we would have to work again through Laura to get specifics approved, but we'd like to have those on the table, that we can have those as an option and not be locked in necessarily to the to option D only.
And that option he's referring to, the custom perforation, there's not a rendering of that one because it's a...
Well, we have a...
Yeah, the one with the...
We have a similar one, right. So what we're thinking is it could be something like this. It may be a perforated material, so you would still have some shading quality, and it would still be fairly open. What's not shown is we've talked about the notion of these days with CNC technology, you can do whatever pattern you want in a panel, and so the idea was maybe we have the option of creating a custom pattern within the panel. And we don't know what that is yet, so that's why it's not shown, but we would certainly be willing to bring that back to Laura for consideration of specifics.
So you want the option to do any of the options?
Well, in an ideal world, yes.
Okay, so, and Laura particularly likes option D. Now, what is it option D and signage option C? Is that what?
Sign option A.
Sign option A. So this is the one you like?
Yes. Now, before the meeting, actually, the operator was talking to me about signs, and I was explaining to him what my concerns were, and that, strangely enough, staff is recommending the sign they need a variance for, which normally you wouldn't hear that from us, but we feel that's the one people are going to be able to see because of the tree. Businesses are allowed both wall signage and freestanding signage per Chapter 3. And the wall sign that the operator talked to me about is the one that you're seeing here before you, which is sign option B. Oh, you want the pole sign above it? Oh, never mind. Okay. Thank you for correcting me. That's okay. He indicated to me that the sign out at the street is going to take longer if they get that approved because of what's going to be involved with making it as well as getting a variance, and that they were hoping to also apparently be allowed, bear with me while I get there, be allowed to do this sign, which is a pole sign, and that is, they would need a variance to be allowed to have 2 freestanding signs because they're only allowed 1, and that is not something that I included in your packet. We included that they would need a variance for that other sign, so I don't know, but it was from the square footage section. I didn't include the number section. So if, in fact, you support their request for the 2 signs in question, I'd have to look.
They can have the attached and the freestanding, correct? They can have one of each.
They can have one of each, but this one we're looking at here is also another pole sign, so this option.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so, but they could have the other option.
Right.
This one, I think we'd have to come back to you guys with this one because it wasn't part of what we advertised, as we didn't, because of the variance. This would be for the number in, not just the location.
Yeah, we noticed, quote, install signage.
Yes.
And provide a recommendation for a variance from the sign regulation.
Oh, okay, so I'm generic enough that
we're free to approve whatever.
Great, thank you.
Approve or deny whatever. I just to, because usually, typically, staff doesn't send this many options to the committee because we believe it's confusing and there's a lot of staff time involved in untangling all the options. But, out of respect for the applicant, we're like, we'll bring them all. And I asked Laura, I said, hey, let's staff kind of take a stand on which one we would choose just to help the committee weed through the options. But I want to say they are all of the screening parts are compliant with the guidelines. Some, we believe, are more compliant than others. Specifically, we're just basically weighing that on openness is kind of our only threshold for that. So we believe the one with the horizontal slats is more open and therefore more pedestrian friendly. The signs, whichever combination of signs the applicant wants, probably is appropriate, is probably appropriate. We're saying that 2 of the 3 options would need a variance, but, that could be requested. So I think that's where we are.
Right,
Okay, so-
and I appreciate that, and I didn't want to make it confusing, but we had a lot of, there's a lot of different votes behind the scenes about what was wanted, so just trying to keep maximum flexibility.
They're trying to not come back for every time they're trying to free up their ability to make cost and schedule decisions without having to come back every time.
So my understanding is that what Laura thinks would be okay would be this option, which would be a wall sign and a standing sign in the... It's not in the packet. It's not in the packet.
I mean, the signs?
It's right there.
Yes, this one that I'm on the screen is in the packet. That,
Right. This is the one...
I wasn't as enamored with that one, and I can't really explain why. I thought the execution of the one on the front came off better. They're only going to really be visible for eastbound vehicular traffic.
That's an important point, because the sign guidelines are written around, signs are supposed to be aimed toward the pedestrian, not the car, except, main thoroughfares like Broadway. But, the sign is supposed to capture the pedestrian. I think that's what Laura is observing about the pole signs, for the most part.
So what I'm
That one.
understanding that the applicant actually wants is they want a freestanding sign in the right-of-way, and they want a freestanding sign on the building. I think that looks a little odd, personally. I think the wall-mounted sign makes a lot more sense.
I like the other way. I like the pole sign on top.
On both of them, two of them at
Yeah, I
both of
don't
them
mind
at the
having
same
poles
time?
at all. I have a question about excuse me, why we do have so many options. I think we heard that option D was preferred by the design team and Steve Mason, and I'm not sure about why we have the other option, the perforated option. Is that, no, we're not all in agreement about option D?
They haven't really...
You're just, okay. I thought I heard some preference towards D.
Right. As you know, architects don't get to make all the decisions, so there's some behind-the-scenes input about which way they'd like to go, and it may not necessarily be D, and so that's the reason we wanted flexibility.
Regarding the signs, I agree with Betsy that having the 2 pole-mounted signs together seems in a way redundant and almost competing with each other in a weird way. I would be fine with the pole-mounted sign in the right-of-way and the wall-mounted sign on the canopy, or just the pole-mounted sign in the right-of-way. I think looking at the scale of that sign, it would communicate to both automobiles and the pedestrians walking on the sidewalk there. So when I reviewed the packet, I think the pole-mounted sign in the right-of-way accomplishes everything that you're looking to do with the signage. Regarding the cladding, I'm also in favor of option D. The slats and the picketing approach feels much more in context with the picketing that's in the residence or the residential style building next door, as well as the picketing at Iguana. The perforated panel just doesn't feel contextual to the style of the buildings as they stand today.
I agree with the horizontal, the picket and the horizontal panels as well.
So, would it be possible for us to, hone down to a certain option?
Signage?
Both.
That's why I was just asking Mark if he can only have option C sign or option A in the median, which is what I'm hearing, collective thought, which one does he want? To try to boil this down.
I would say long-term, the better play is probably the one closer to the street.
But how, for today's purposes, would you like A at the street or C on the building?
Well, A at the street. But you'll have to forgive my ignorance. I'm not familiar with the variance and the timeline and all those other things. So my concern is the operators. As we're approving these signs with variances, how does that impact me in terms of signing the lease that's been signed?
Well, I think what you can do,
And getting open.
we ask staff, but I think you can put up temporary signage till you get the permanent sign up.
You
I
have to
believe.
get a CA for temporary sign.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a
Can you get
pretty
it in
easy deal.
D2T1?
So, I mean, you could put a banner up there or something, I think,
There-
to let you know you're in business.
There really is, as far as people say, well, can I put a banner up? We don't really have provisions for that unless, I guess, you look at it almost as a, because we can't issue it as temporary, so I guess you issue it as permanent, and they're really only putting it up temporary.
But there's temporary, and DVD, there's temporary. Yes, there is. Like the
We
thing,
do it with the Thunder stuff.
Those are very specific, size-wise, and what they're for, and this building is not eligible for that process.
Okay. Boiling it down, because we did create a lot of confusion with our application, we would take sign A out in the grass as proposed by staff if we can only have one, which we understand.
they can have both.
They could have the wall and the
Right, yeah,
freestanding.
you can have both.
But I think respecting Mr. Bates's comment
Oh,
that
got it.
the two appear redundant, conflicting, or something, if we are asked to pick one, respecting that view, we would take A out in the grass and drop C. Got it. It's reasonable. And I actually understand what you're saying. So, on the sign matter.
Okay, so, are you okay with the slatted fencing?
Option D, the slatted, Rand, Elliott gets what the staff's recommending, the slatted thought to be more compatible with the aesthetics, which Mr. Bates, I think, spoke to. I think Ken gets it, I get it. The operator, Mark, kind of wishes he could have this other thought, I think. True. And I think we're going to rely on your judgment, because you guys are up there for your experience and wisdom. If it's D, or if it's D plus the other one, that's great also.
Okay, I think what I'm hearing is D for the materials and A for the signage, and if you can live with that.
Can I ask to go back to the comments that were circling before Steve stepped up about possible?
Could you walk up to the mic?
Circling back to the discussion about the temporary sign, my concern, again, as an operator.
Let's stay on the screen for a moment.
Okay.
Let's finish the screen
I'm
discussion.
fine with the screen.
Okay, the one thing,
We're saying we're fine with A
Correct.
sign.
Correct.
D screen.
Correct.
And then temporary signage, we can talk to you guys offline with staff.
okay, one thing that just to,
Okay.
Mark,
Then yes, I'm good.
this sign, the wall sign, I think you could do both sign A and sign B,
Okay.
if that would help you.
It will definitely help from a business perspective, yes. Drive traffic, yes, it will help.
Okay.
That's true. Yeah, having a temporary sign from a business up, even if you're open, is not a good sign. It indicates to many patrons that something's wrong. It indicates that you're not on your A game. It indicates that you're underprepared. It indicates all sorts of things that, from an operator standpoint, is an issue. Construction? July 1.
Yeah, but we're saying if the wall sign, they could have in 2 weeks.
I like the option of the pole sign A and then having that on the wall.
Okay. And how about so we've got the signage kind of figured out.
Correct.
How about the perforated versus the slat?
I'm okay with the slat.
Okay.
I mean, in an ideal world, for my preference, I would like the option of the perforated, but again, I'm not going to hold things up because of that preference.
Okay. Somebody's going to make a motion.
I move to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section C and D of the staff report, with the conditions that A, the applicant utilizes option D, metal channels for screening and cladding. B, the applicant utilizes sign option A and C. B, sorry. Thank you for clarification. I said the wrong letter. The applicant utilizes sign option A and B, signage mounted on the pole between the sidewalk and the curb and the signage on the face of the building. And C, the applicant obtains a variance from the Board of Adjustment for the sign ordinance prohibition against signs in the right-of-way.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion from Gigi and a second from Corey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And then I move to provide a recommendation of approval to the Board of Adjustment for a variance from the sign ordinance prohibition against signs in the right-of-way.
Second.
Same combination. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nashville-style hot chicken. Nashville-style hot chicken.
Yum.
So the double entendre of the name, Hot Chick, it was just a very simple reach, but we're falling prey to some pitfalls that we didn't plan on, so we're very likely going to change the name of it to Nashbird.
Nashbird?
Nashbird. Nashbird.
Making me hungry. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
guys, and I apologize for parts of our application that was clear as mud. And we value your guys' experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, 6A, did the applicant ever show up? There was a guy that came in here and... Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he was here for the wrong meeting.
Okay.
The 8th Street hasn't shown, and I remembered our recommendation was to continue it because we think they need to make some changes before it's approvable.
Okay.
So we recommended that it be continued to the May, because we don't think they'll be able to do it by the April meeting. So
Okay.
we recommended it be continued to May 18th.
I'll move to continue item 6A, 321 Northwest 8th Street to the May 18th meeting.
That's Corey, Danielle. Motion, all in favor? Any opposed? So that's what's going on with that one. Let's continue. We have several items. No other business. Is that correct, or has something popped up? We have several items on the administrative approval report. Is there anything of consequence that we need to pay attention to, like a large building that somebody's going to build on an empty lot that we would be surprised about, or anything like that? Yeah, next month, what's going on?
Sort of big, there's a couple of sort of big projects. Yeah, some are, if you read the news.
I think I saw something.
Something on Automobile Alley and something in Midtown on Hudson.
I saw that.
There are a handful of things. Right.
Okay, they're coming up. So how many items do we have set for next month? Okay. Okay, great. What does closed by staff mean?
They filed this application but never paid for it or never took any action on it, so we closed it because it keeps showing up in our records. So it kind of never existed since they never actually paid for it.
Okay. Okay, but it's just something you need to report.
If depending on the funding source.
Comments from the planning department?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to confuse with the synopsis rules of order. That was meant to be helpful. It's hole punch, so you can put it in the back of your binder. It's based on a document that the committees were using in the past.
Is this really here just for us to read that last .5A? Members will leave the room immediately.
Yes, a lot of our past training items are covered in this, but it's to give, again, to help. It was mainly written to help people, well, to catch the things about conflicts of interest. It happened, and all of these things, it's not aimed at downtown. This is for all of the committees of issues we see a lot, and then, but also to help people craft motions and kind of be more comfortable with when and where. But this committee doesn't really have a problem with motions.
Okay.
It's supposed to be helpful, so
Do you say that to all the committees?
I say that to all the committees.
Ooh, wow, wow. Okay, comments from the committee members? Anything? Corey's going to be a dad sometime soon.
Yeah, I'm tentative for next meeting, so.
So,
We all have to be here.
yeah. We don't have any empty spots, do we? We're good. All right.
I don't know where Nathaniel.
Connie's down there all by herself. I think it's spring break. I feel kind of bad for you down there.
No landscape items to weigh in on.
Well, no, the next meeting is April 20th. You anxious to leave? And we are now adjourned.